then people can go overseas too. But this is a whole new one. And this one offers a lot of money. And that's why people are like moving towards this.
And this is also different than Unrivaled.
Completely different.
So how many like floating leagues are there? 3?
I would say that like a lot of the American players are doing, or I would say the majority is 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No love for athletes unlimited. Oh, you hate to see it.
Or I would say the majority is.
Sophie Cunningham just dropped a bombshell that changes everything we thought we knew about Caitlin Clark's off-season plans. When your own teammate and close friend casually reveals that you've turned down a massive opportunity to make serious money playing overseas, that tells us something incredibly significant about where Clark's true priorities actually lie. And honestly, it also uncovers a brewing war between rival leagues that most fans haven't even fully noticed yet.
Caitlin was like, nah, I'm good. I'm good. But if you missed it, she said that she thinks players are going to be switching over between these 2 leagues. Let's pay attention.
Moving towards this.
And this is also different than Unrivaled.
Completely different.
So how many like floating leagues are there? 3?
I would say that like a lot of the American players are doing, or I would say the majority is 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think there's going to be a lot of people switching over.
Here's the thing. We've got 3 competing leagues, each with a wildly different vision for the future of women's basketball. And Sophie just confirmed what league executives have been quietly whispering about for months. Players are absolutely about to start jumping ship. Unrivaled initially thought they had the off-season completely locked down. They positioned themselves as the premier domestic alternative to playing overseas, offering pretty sweet 6-figure contracts designed to keep players stateside. But then Project B dramatically entered the chat, not with 6-figure deals but with mind-blowing 7-figure contracts and traditional 5-on-5 basketball, ditching the 3-on-3 gimmicks. Now here's where this story really heats up. Kelsey Mitchell, Clark's own backcourt partner in Indiana, has already committed to Project B. And Sophie Cunningham, she's heading there too. These aren't just random role players. These are established stars who just finished playing alongside the biggest draw in women's basketball. And guess what? They both tried to recruit Caitlin Clark.
There's going to be a lot of people switching over. Yeah, I would probably tend to agree with that thought, Sophie. If your options are Unrivaled or your option is Project B, well, one of them is paying you 7 figures and one of them is paying you 6 figures, and one of them is 5v5 basketball and the other is 3v3 basketball. Well, then I'd probably pick Project B as well. Seems like a no-brainer. Unrivaled, they thought they were going to be the alternative. Oh, we're going to run in the off-season. If these players want to get paid instead of going overseas, they're going to get paid in Unrivaled. But now Unrivaled finds themselves.
That incredibly telling response from Sophie reveals everything you need to know about the massive financial gap we're talking about here. Project B isn't just offering slightly more money than Unrivaled. They're offering genuinely transformational wealth. We're talking about contracts that could realistically match or even exceed what some WNBA stars earn in an entire season. This is the kind of money that forces you to completely rethink your entire approach to the offseason. But Caitlin Clark said no, not maybe next year, not let me think about it. Just a flat, unequivocal not really. And that definitive decision carries absolutely massive implications for all 3 leagues desperately competing for her attention. So, let's break down what Clark actually earned in 2025, because the numbers here are critically important. A total of $16 million. But here's the crucial breakdown that explains her mindset. Only $180,000 of that came directly from her WNBA salary. The remaining $15.82 million came entirely from endorsement deals. Think about it. Nike, State Farm, Gatorade, Wilson. Those powerhouse partnerships didn't magically materialize because she played great basketball in Turkey or dominated a 3-on-3 league in Miami. They exist because she became, undeniably, the face of the WNBA.
Well, we have to say that she probably has already been offered. There's probably already been something thrown out in her direction, as far as a contract goes, as far as an offer goes to Caitlin Clark. What would that offer look like? that she'd say, "No, I'm good on this," or is it a, "Nah, I don't want to play in this league" thing? Right? How enticing does the money need to be for Caitlin Clark to say, I really don't want to play in here, but this is money I can't turn down, right? Is it 5 million? Is it 10 million? Is it 15 million? What would that number be? Project B is coming up to Caitlin. Hey, Caitlin, I just did a video you guys saw. She made 16 million in the year 2025. 16 million in the year 2025. 15 million and 820,000 of it from endorsement deals. So Project B, if I would guess, would have to equal something along that. If I had to get, if she's making 16 million, just taking herself from here to there, her name.
This is the critical leverage calculation that changes everything we thought we knew. Caitlin Clark simply doesn't need Project B's money in the same way other players might. She's already incredibly financially secure through those massive endorsements, which are entirely dependent on her WNBA platform and visibility. Playing overseas in a brand new startup league doesn't actually expand that brand. It potentially dilutes it. Think about the risk assessment she's making here. Project B might offer her 5 million, maybe even 10 million for a single offseason. That sounds incredible, right? Until you realize that taking that deal could seriously jeopardize endorsement contracts worth 3 times that amount annually. Nike didn't sign her to sell basketball shoes in Turkey. They signed her to absolutely dominate the American sports conversation during the WNBA season. But there's another layer to this decision that goes far beyond just Clark's personal financial calculation. By staying exclusively loyal to the WNBA, she's actually increasing her leverage over the league itself. Every single time she turns down a rival offer, she's sending a clear, undeniable message to Kathy Engelbert and the team owners: I'm loyal to this league, but you need to make it truly worth my while. The WNBA's new media deal kicks in next season. Revenue projections are climbing, and expansion fees are hitting record numbers. Clark can legitimately walk into those upcoming CBA negotiations and say, look, I could be making millions playing elsewhere in January and February, but I'm choosing to rest and focus exclusively on your product. Now let's talk about what that kind of loyalty is actually worth.
Second thing, players are going to be switching. Unrivaled's cooked. Unrivaled is cooked like a Thanksgiving turkey. I know I'm a week behind. Unrivaled is done. Finished. Kaput. If Unrivaled is existing past 2027, I would be shocked and amazed. But again, what type of players would they even have in the league at that point? Nafisa Collier, Brianna Stewart, cool. Who else? The stud buds? I ain't watching no stud buds. Who else would be Unrivaled? Paige cut it out. Cut it out. Unrivaled better call Kathy Engelbert and say, hey, we could be a developmental.
Here's what truly keeps Unrivaled executives up at night. They meticulously built their entire business model on being the premier go-to off-season option for leading WNBA players. They secured investors, painstakingly negotiated facilities, and specifically structured their 3-on-3 format to reduce injury risk while keeping players sharp. They even brought in Brianna Stewart and Nafisa Collier as co-founders to instantly lend the league credibility. And then, without warning, Project B showed up with significantly deeper pockets and traditional 5-on-5 basketball. No gimmicks, no experimental formats, just real basketball with serious money. The kind of money that makes Unrivaled's 6-figure contracts look like a nice gesture rather than a genuine game-changing opportunity. Sophie Cunningham is absolutely right. Players are going to switch. They're going to break commitments, renegotiate deals, and follow the money to Project B. Unrivaled simply can't compete in a bidding war because they lack that kind of backing. They're venture-funded, operating with a very specific business plan and financial projections. They can't just suddenly double everyone's salary because a new competitor entered the market. Project B, on the other hand, doesn't have those constraints. They're backed by international money with entirely different expectations about profitability timelines. They can comfortably operate at a loss for years if it means establishing market dominance. That, my friends, is a luxury Unrivaled simply doesn't have.
Another thought that I have around this is, if there's no Caitlin Clark in Project B, what kind of TV deal are they going to get? Now, if we take this at face value and we know Caitlin Clark's not going to be there, what kind of TV deal are they going to get? Because these executives, they see everything that we see, if not more. Or they have people around them that sees what we see, if not more. And they go to him, yeah, Caitlin Clark. I mean, I know you're talking to the big wigs over there at Project B, and they're telling you they got this in the works and they got this in the works, but her best friends are literally saying she's not playing this. So maybe we should pump our brakes on some deals that we're going to offer. I don't know. Just some thoughts that I have.
But let's circle back to the real question. Everyone seems to be dancing around. What would it genuinely take for Caitlin Clark to actually change her mind? Because make no mistake, Project B has absolutely 100% made her an offer. You simply don't launch an international basketball league and not at least try to secure the biggest name in women's basketball. So what exact number did she turn down? $5 million seems far too low to even bother discussing. It's good money, but not truly life-changing money for someone already earning $16 million annually. $10 million starts to get interesting, but it's still probably not enough to risk those incredibly lucrative endorsement relationships. $15 million? Now we're talking about money that would actually make anyone pause and seriously reconsider. My educated guess is they offered somewhere between $8 and $12 million. And she still said no. Why? Because the math only truly works if you completely ignore the hidden costs. Playing overseas means less rest, a significantly higher injury risk, and potential fatigue that could severely impact her WNBA performance. And her WNBA performance, let's be clear, is exactly what keeps those enormous endorsement deals flowing.
She doesn't want to play in Project B. That wasn't a goal of hers. She doesn't want to play in Unrivaled. That's not a goal of hers. I would be surprised if she plays in Athletes Unlimited. I'd be surprised if she plays in the EuroLeague. If she plays in Australia. I'd be surprised. Her not playing in those leagues does more for the WNBA as far as leverage is concerned. And she needs to utilize that leverage. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I appreciate all of this.
Here's the critical point where Clark's situation completely diverges from almost every other player in the league. For someone like Kelsey Mitchell or Sophie Cunningham, Project B represents a legitimate opportunity to potentially double their annual income. The entire risk-reward calculation is totally different when you're not already sitting on $15 million in endorsements. But for Clark, the calculation is essentially inverted. She's not trying to maximize short-term earnings. She's trying to fiercely protect her long-term brand value. And that brand value is inextricably tied to the WNBA's success and her dominance within that specific league. Every single decision she makes has to be filtered through that very specific lens, which then brings us to the broader implications of her monumental decision. If Caitlin Clark won't play in Project B, what kind of television deal can they realistically secure? Because let's be brutally honest about how this actually works. Network executives are not blind. They see the ratings data. They know that WNBA viewership jumped a staggering 48% this season, and they know exactly why. When Clark plays, people watch. When she doesn't, they tune out. Project B could sign 50 incredibly talented players, and it simply won't matter if they can't get meaningful media distribution. And they absolutely cannot get meaningful media distribution without a star that casual fans actually recognize. They needed Caitlin Clark not just as a player, but as a critical marketing anchor. Without her, they're just another overseas league that only hardcore fans might occasionally stream. So now, what happens to Unrivaled? Because they're in an even worse position. At least Project B has the financial resources to survive a few years of losses while they try to tide an audience. Unrivaled was banking on profitability within 3 seasons. They structured their entire financial model around being the exclusive domestic option for top-tier talent. But if players start defecting to Project B for bigger contracts, and Caitlin Clark isn't interested in playing for either league, what's genuinely left? Brianna Stewart and Nafisa Collier are phenomenal players and savvy business owners, but they simply cannot carry a league's viewership by themselves. They need star power far beyond their core investor group. The most likely outcome is that Unrivaled will hard pivot towards becoming a WNBA developmental league. They'll go to Kathy Engelbert and the team owners and essentially say, look, we can't compete financially with international money, but what we can provide is a structured off-season program that keeps your players in the States, reduces injury risk with our 3-on-3 format, and develops younger talent. Essentially, they'll become the G League of women's basketball. That's certainly not what they envisioned when they launched, but it might just be the only sustainable path forward. The NBA and WNBA could subsidize their operations in exchange for having an official development pipeline. Players would get paid to stay domestic and stay sharp. Teams would get better talent development, and everyone wins, except for Unrivaled's original vision of being an independent rival league. But here's what I keep coming back to. Caitlin Clark's decision to stay WNBA exclusive isn't just about protecting her endorsements or avoiding injury risk. It's about understanding that her childhood dream wasn't to be just a rich basketball player. It was specifically to play in the WNBA, to follow in the footsteps of legends like Maya Moore and Diana Taurasi, to build a lasting legacy in the league that truly mattered. She's already financially secure. She's already famous. The next phase of her career isn't about maximizing earnings. It's about cementing her place in WNBA history. And you simply can't do that if you're constantly splitting your focus between multiple leagues and diluting your impact. That's why she said no to Sophie Cunningham. And that's why she'll probably keep saying no, regardless of how high Project B raises their offer. Because some decisions aren't about money, they're about legacy. And Clark deeply understands that her legacy is tied directly to the WNBA's success, which means the WNBA better not take that loyalty for granted. Because the next CBA negotiation is coming. And Clark will have every right to walk in there and demand compensation that truly reflects her actual value to the league. Not just her on-court production, but her undeniable impact on ratings, attendance, merchandise sales, and media rights negotiations. She's betting on the WNBA. The burning question is whether the WNBA is willing to bet on her in return. Because if they lowball her in the next contract negotiation, if they hide behind salary cap restrictions and claim they can't pay her what she's truly worth, then all of this loyalty becomes a one-way street. And that's exactly when players start reconsidering those overseas offers. So where does this leave us? Project B will likely survive, because they have the funding to weather early losses. They'll sign good players and build a respectable product. But without Caitlin Clark, they'll undoubtedly struggle to break through to mainstream American audiences. Unrivaled faces an existential crisis and will likely need to completely reinvent themselves as a development league to survive. And the WNBA maintains its position as the premier women's basketball league, but only because their biggest star chose loyalty over money. The real test comes in 2 years, when the CBA expires. That's when we'll truly find out if Clark's loyalty was rewarded or exploited. That's when we'll see if the WNBA's ownership groups are willing to truly invest in the player who single-handedly transformed their league. And that's when this entire conversation might just get revisited, especially if Clark decides she's tired of leaving millions on the table, while the league simply profits from her drawing power. For now, she's staying put, focusing intently on the WNBA, and protecting the brand that has already made her $16 million in a single year. But loyalty absolutely has limits, and the WNBA needs to remember that before they assume she'll keep turning down those overseas offers forever. What do you think the WNBA should pay Caitlin Clark in her next contract? Because whatever number you're thinking, I guarantee it's not enough compared to what she's actually worth to that league. Drop your thoughts in the comments below.